possession and control of that money. And you are giving it to the charity saying, I'm giving it to you, you do what you want to do. It gets stickier when they start, pink roses, green ferns, and running rivers and all that. But under our system, I do have a problem, an ethical problem, a lot of times with these churches that have separate tithe funds and, this and that. My question is, are you a pig or a puppy? We're part of the Church of God. We have a structure. It's in our book of church order. And I know you're going, well, you're the denominational council. You're just harping on whatever you think pays your salary. Not so. We have a designated giving structure. It is what it is. And you agree when you get your credentials, we're going to operate under that structure. So I have a problem with, well, this ought to go under the, XYZ tithe fund or this general tithe fund or this tithe fund. I think it ought to be, it is what it is, as Pope Benedict XVI said. It is what it is. So yeah, you're going to get in trouble someday. That's why I mentioned follow the minutes. Somebody's going to call you to task for not following what the system is. Now you're going, well, I'm just getting away with it. But I think it's an ethical issue, Bishop. I'm sorry.
Right.
Is that okay?
Yes.
I want to go back to when you talked about with the scenario. Me greeting my pastor and just shaking his hand and said, I want to bless you. Could it be understood without verbally saying all that you said, that if I'm giving this to you to bless you with it, that could be the end of that, or do I have to necessarily continue that verbal spiel you gave?
No, that could be the end of it right there. That's a personal gift. Just like you give a gift to your children. Okay? That's a personal discretion, and you're free to do that.
Is it income to the pastor?
No.
Is it a gift?
If it's a gift, it's not considered income.
If you give your pastor a gift, I love you, pastor, I want to bless you. You put a $100 bill in his hands. Or if you want to, you can do it to the Church of God General Council. I'm okay with that. Let's say you give it to me. You say, I love you, I want to bless you. You don't get a tax deduct because you didn't give it to a charity. You gave it to a person. But it was a gift. So the person who gives the gift determines whether or not he or she gets a deduction because you gave it to a personal entity. It was a gift to the recipient. And that is not taxable income, is it?
No.
Up to $10,000.
So then at that point, would my pastor need to report it?
No.
These are the Church of God General Council.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question along those lines. So if we get a pastor's appreciation offering, I report the whole offering as pastor's salary at the end of the year.
Yes.
Okay? But according to what you're saying, if the people who gave it and they didn't put it in an envelope, so they're not getting any credit for it, it would seem more fair to me if we could just take out the cash part and only call the salary part the part that people are getting credit for. I mean, that's not the way we do it. We do the whole thing in salary, but it seems fair the other way. And so are you saying, what are you saying about that?
When you're doing that as the local church body, it's an official sanctioned event, Pastor Appreciation Day, and you take up an offering. It's going to be for the pastor and to honor him. You're getting into kind of a gray area, but I think personally that is something that has to be reported to the IRS as taxable income.
And the difference, of course, is that the person who gave that offering got a legal tax deduction because you had an officially sanctioned offering and they gave to the church.
No, she's saying
No,
It's a
the
cash
people who
offer.
just put the money in the
Cash envelope.
offering
They
plate,
didn't, but
didn't mark
they
it.
but if they wrote out an envelope, they would have a
I'm
record.
saying the people who did it.
Oh,
Okay, so
yes,
some people
okay.
maybe just gave cash. Maybe there was
Oh, I see.
$200 cash in that thing. So
Well, see, they can claim
I
a
just wondered.
deduct up to 250 too.
Well,
If you,
up until
beyond 250, you got to have a documentation.
yeah, but even that rule's changing now.
Explain it.
Yeah, up until just recently, you could deduct loose cash offerings without any kind of documentation up to a reasonable amount. The IRS is changing that rule now. So up until now, people could say, yeah, I gave to the pastor appreciation offering, and here's how much I gave over the course of the year in loose cash offerings, and take it off their taxes. Now, that rule is changing, so you'll need to
That's
watch that.
correct, Mark.
Yes.
The way that we handled the redirection of funds, generally, we had an entire church meeting. Took minutes of that meeting, brought it out that we would redirect those funds as our trustees seen it, and literally had a vote. And our people had no problem with that at all, and specified in that meeting with documentation that if you still want it to go to where you designated, just put it right on there, please do it. That handled that whole issue.
I want to
That's how we
make,
got pink flowers.
good. I want to make one additional comment about the question that was raised over here about the gift to the pastor, or you just hand him a $50 bill or whatever. I've been working recently with a church that's in a building program, and they decided to take the old parsonage, which was very near the church, and turn it into eventually a daycare center. And they decided that they were going to give the pastor a housing allowance. But in the process, because he had been a pastor that they really respected, he had done a marvelous job while he had been there, they decided they wanted to bless him and help him find a new house by like giving him the down payment. Now, you've got a problem. He's got a problem there in that those monies came out of tithes and offerings of the local church, and he's got to report that as income. And we've got to work through that issue with him. Otherwise, he's going to have a big tax liability in the coming year, because we're talking, I don't know, maybe $10,000, $15,000, something like that, that is actually taxable income. It was a gift to him, but it came out of the general funds of the church, the tithes and offerings. He's got to look at that as taxable income.
What about gifts, non-monetary?
Good question.
For instance, Pastor Appreciation Day last year, one of the members took me to a Cubs game, which they won, thank the Lord. I don't know what it cost. I have no idea what it cost him. How do you deal with that?
If he doesn't claim it on his tax return, you got no problem. That's a gift. That's a gift. Now, I do know one situation where an individual on Pastor Appreciation gave the pastor a boat that he had, and he wanted that to be a charitable contribution. Well, what we had to do that is we had to give him an IRS-approved form. I forget the number. You can look at it, find it on the IRS site, but it's for non-cash charitable contributions. And the pastor, we had to put it on his W-2 at the end of the year, the appraised value of that boat. When you do get a non-cash gift over a certain amount, you are required to give the individual a receipt. Now, you are not responsible for establishing the value of that non-cash gift. The giver has that responsibility. All you have to do is acknowledge receipt. And there's a place on the back page of that IRS form where you simply do that. Yes, he gave the church a so-and-so and so-and-so on such and such a date, and you sign it and date it. But that's all you're required to do. You do not have to come up with a value.
I've got a question. I do a nursing home ministry, and the older people are coming up to me all the time, and thank God for it, and they want to give me money, as in the handshake thing. What about that? Is that legal, or is it not, or what do I do?
On your part, getting back to this issue of reasonableness and the reasonable person is going to assume that that's a gift if they simply say, here.
Okay, because I was told years ago that I should not accept it. Okay.
I personally don't see a problem with it.
Well, what are you going to do when you don't want to hurt them?
I personally see no problem with it. Now, if they go back and say, well, I made this gift, this cash gift, on such and such a day to such and such a program, and they claim it on their taxes, now the IRS says, you got to have some proof. You got to have a receipt for that. Okay? So that gets you off the hook there.
Doesn't the nursing home owners have somewhat control of their money and finances? I'm sure,
Some do.
Obviously, a handshake with a 20 or a small amount of money is not a problem, but you got to know too that people in a nursing home usually are either highly medicated or not able to take care of themselves, or
To me, I understand your point, and it's a good point. To me, that is more of an ethical issue with the recipient as opposed to a legal or financial issue.